What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Flow In, Flow Out podcast. My name is Samnang Man, and today I am Terrence Howard, about to tell you about the Texahedron. Just kidding. I got my good buddy here, Travis Ponton here. He is a collegiate D3 basketball coach. And what I am going to do is I am going to read off his resume because he's got a hell of a resume. And he reached out to me when I started putting out some content on doing this podcast. So podcasting, I tell you, it's a really powerful thing. It can get really your message out there. And I started posting it in a few places, Facebook and LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I do it on my Instagram as well too. And Travis caught wind of some of the work that I've been doing. I believe it was the one with our fraternity brother, Dean Bakari. Dean Bakari, I believe, was I guess he's an influential figure. He was actually my little brother in the fraternity, so I mentored him and actually recruited him, mentored him, and stayed in touch with him all the way to college and into adult life. So we've had some really big influences on each other. So this is Travis. He is an undergraduate. He went to undergraduate at Radford and did his graduate degree at VCU and became friends with some of the fraternity brothers that I was there as well too, or that I knew. So we missed each other for a few years, but we caught up on LinkedIn and just messaged each other about some of the stuff that we were doing. And, we thought it'd be a good idea to hit the record button. So that's what the Flow In, Flow Out podcast is about. It's about like, hey, if you like the message, if you resonate with it, if you want to share something inspiring, that's part of what the show is. And that is the introduction. It's to elevate the collective vibrations. And I'm going to read off of Travis's resume because he wrote something nice here. And I do want to be able to read it off to you guys because I think it's pretty cool where you write your own resume and have somebody read it off for you and tell you like all your list of accomplishments and everything. So Travis grew up in Virginia, so did I. So he attended Radford University and graduate school at VCU. He played basketball collegiately, where he got cut short. But he was persuaded by a couple of childhood high school friends to join Delta Chi, which turned out to be one of the best decisions he's made in his life. He started coaching high school basketball while he was still in college, but always throughout his career, he would be a journalist or be in journalism. For his first 2.5-year postgrad, he worked at CBS 6 News in Richmond, winning an Emmy Award in 2012. Nice. Then he got laid off. He switched gears in 2013 and got into college basketball coaching, and that's where he's been ever since. He took a year hiatus where he worked for a sports media company and moonlighted in the service industry back in Richmond. He even didn't play commentary for college basketball televised games. Basketball has taken him over the country and lived in some of the coolest cities in the U.S. New Orleans twice, D.C., Charleston, New York City, and now Philadelphia. He's currently the head women's basketball coach and assistant athletic director at NCAA D3 Bryn Athyn. I hope I said that right? Bryn Athyn. Yeah, it's spelled funny, and when I see the spelling, I try to pronounce it as but Bryn Athyn College, and he also runs the largest girls basketball camp circuit in the world. And through his role as the director of camps for Blue Star Basketball, outside of basketball, he enjoys travel, staying active. He's a huge history nerd, and he's recently became an entry-level collector of old action figures. As the industry has taken off for all of us 80s and 90s kids, in 2018, he was named to the Women's Basketball Coaches Association, the 30 under 30 list. He was recognized as the top 30 women's college basketball coaches under the age of 30. In 2021, he received the Whoops Dirt's NCAA D3 National Coach of the Week's honor. He was named to the Loyola University Athletics Hall of Fame in 2024. And this past season, Bryn Athyn, our program won the first ever NCAA statistical championship as the number one 3-point defense in all of NCAA basketball, men's or women's, all 3 divisions. Wow. Look at that resume. Welcome to the show. It took me like 3 minutes to read that thing. Welcome. You sent me a whole story. I think we could just end the show, right? Or we could just talk about it. Yeah. So the first part of the show is just real formy,
Yeah, thank you,
and
my
then
brother. I appreciate it. Thanks for
introduce
having me.
yourself
Like I said, I'm
personally,
excited to be
and fill
here.
in what
I've watched your episodes. I think what you're doing is
you
great.
want to
You
share
flow
with the
in, flow
audience. We're
out.
gonna
So
share
really
both this
excited.
my audience and your
Done a
audience
couple
as
other
well too.
podcasts
So
before, but this isn't a
definitely,
basketball
I'm gonna give you the
podcast. So
floor.
I'm
Okay.
really excited about that. Of course, obviously, the fit is fire, man. The fit is fire. But no, as a brother, as a fraternity brother, that means a lot to me. You know, you touched on
We can
that.
talk
That's kind of
basketball
what
too. See,
connected
I got
us.
my
I know in
basketball
Delta
hat,
Chi,
and
our
I
bond is
brought
uncommon.
my
So I
Tim
think it's
Grover
great
book right here.
that we could do this together. Again, following your work, it's been tremendous and really enjoyed it. Uh, Travis Ponton, as you said, I'm the head women's basketball coach, assistant athletic director here at Bryn Athyn College in Northeast Philly. I'm not a Philly guy. I'm from
Yeah.
Virginia, but I've been in Philly long enough that I'm starting to cross into the Philly guy threshold, I guess. Love it here. Love it here. Love our student athletes. Our program has really grown leaps and bounds in my 5 years here. You mentioned some of the success that we've had, some of the records that we've set, and I'm really excited about year 6. Time kind of flies. People say they can't believe it's been 6 years, and I guess I can't either. But I never really thought I'd coach college basketball. Something we used to joke about when I was a kid. About these really obscure, like never heard of before colleges, right? And now I'm the head coach at what's now back to being the smallest school in the NCAA. So we do it different here. We work really, really hard. Women's basketball is in a great place. The popularity of the game has grown leaps and bounds just in my 15 years working in it. And that's awesome. That's because of the people in it. I'm a big people person. I think the people make the experience, the people make the place. And women's basketball, it continues to grow every single year in terms of the following, the notoriety, and people just paying attention.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely an advocate for that. Love all your work about personal development. I'm big on goal setting. I'm big on hard work. Got my workout in this morning as I do every day. So those are things that I'm about, and I'm excited to be on the podcast and just talk a little bit more about basketball and just about life in general. Because I think the conversations really bring out a lot in us. I'm a big podcast listener, so I love to have my notes open and just put a podcast on, whether it's on a drive or whatever, and things stick out. That's how you grow. That's how you advance. That's how you develop yourself. So I think this is great.
Yeah, fantastic, man. Thank you for sharing. That's great. I know we got the formal stuff and then your personal stuff. I think, for me, personal development and community and everything, I think it all ties in together. I think we could try to separate work and life, but it's really hard because at the end of the day, like I try to bring people in and show people that we're people first, whether you're a coach, you're an athlete or somebody, that's a person that you're talking to, and you're trying to get under their be an influence on them, put them in a positive way and everything. And there's a lot of work behind it, and I think understanding personal psychology, personal development really helps other aspects of your life as well too. And in college was a great time. That's why I had so many fraternity brothers and people from VCU on here, is because I thoroughly had a really good time in college learning. And actually that's where my personal development kind of started. I've always we've had sports right in high school, but I think it was, and I did get a good foundation. I think wrestling was probably one of the hardest sports that I played. I played football and I wrestled for 3 years, and I really wasn't good. I was terrible actually. But throughout that process of just sucking and just knowing that the little incremental changes that we make each day by talking to people, helping each other, right, coaching each other, and being coached as well too. Those incremental changes over time makes a dramatic difference. It adds up. Those small little thoughts, those things that you say about yourself can add up in the wrong way or in the right way. And that's why personal development for me is so important. I think in college I was inspired by a few things. One, Omar Dean Bakari, the personal development speaker, my fraternity brother, I mentored him and having him and kind of mentoring him, coaching him through some of the stuff the fraternity had. And that's when I really got into personal development, because I didn't have any direction. Like, I was undeclared, I think, until like my end of my sophomore year. I got to a point I was like I hit a crisis. I was like, I need to make a decision. And then one of my fraternity brother, my AMC, gave me a book called Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins. So that's kind of like my story. Like, that's my mentor. But he was the one that kind of started that. And that's when I kind of started hitting the gym more consistently, started reading more books, started more networking, started putting myself out there more. And it's paid off. It's been a long journey, and it's always like a continuous process and everything. And bringing you in to kind of share your story at VCU and your personal journey is part of, like, we're all human beings. We're all kind of like intertwined together and stuff. So our stories, when people share their stories, I could share my story as well too, and I could share my story, and you could share
Yeah,
your story.
absolutely. I mean,
So you
yeah, coming
started
out of grad
off
school,
with
that's what I thought
basketball,
the
for
plan was
love for
going to be, is
basketball,
just
and
work in
then you
journalism
had
and
the
do
TV
TV and all that great stuff, for sure.
career, and that was kind of like where you thought your future was going to be in, right? So yeah, I mean, journalism basically is just getting your information out there, right? Or tell us a little bit about. I don't know too much about like I'm not a professional like journalist or anything. Tell us a little bit about that world, how you went from uh graduate school, going into work to CBS 6, and then getting
Yeah,
that
I
Emmy
mean,
Award,
so
and then
for
just being
me, it
like, hey, I
started in
had to
high
switch
school. I was
careers,
going
right?
to
And then
a
you
school that
have
had
to
a great
learn how to
newspaper,
pivot
and I
and
took
use those same
journalism
type of
one just as
skills
an
into this new
elective. And
career, and you
by
most
October
certainly
of that
excelled
school
in
year,
what
I
you're
was
doing right
writing
now,
for the newspaper, which usually no journalism ones, especially not that first semester, get the opportunity to do that. Then I ended up switching high schools. My parents moved to a different neighborhood, and the high school that I went to was the big technology school in Chesterfield County. That was Matulka High School. And we had a television show started by a guy named Terrell Brown, who has won a bazillion awards. He's a gifted journalist. He worked in CBS National News. He's now an anchor in Chicago. Last I checked on Terrell, I believe he's still there. Might the ABC affiliate maybe is where he's working. But we had some really cool, gifted people. We'd stay after school and we'd film these shows, and then we'd put them out there every Friday. We'd broadcast to the school. And then by my junior year, we were actually putting those shows out live every Friday. So I just became like any journalism class, whether it was newspaper, magazine, the television stuff, I just took them all. And I was like, that's what I want to do. Obviously, love sports, and I was an athlete and played, volleyball, baseball, basketball.
wow.
But my big thing was the news. I think that journalists, the way I viewed it, was we're public servants. When I worked at CBS 6 News in Richmond, whether it was online, on TV, through my writing, whatever, it was putting a service out to the people of our community. I'm from the 804. That's where I'm born and raised, Chesterfield County kid. So it was cool that the people I grew up with, my old teachers and stuff, watched our product, and they watch it to be informed. So for me, like, that's what journalism was about. Public service, whether it's uh, a missing person, the water is not safe right now because it's too high in the James River, don't swim in it. So many different things that we put out there
Yeah.
were supposed to be, public service. And that was a big part of it for me. I love the fast paced atmosphere that it was. I definitely, I came in as a part-time guy working the assignment desk, and I just tried to work my way into opportunities every single day. I would come in when I wasn't working and just try to put the work in. That's the athlete
Yeah.
mentality. If you're not happy with your playing time, if you're not happy with your results, put the time in, put the work in on your own. And that's the mentality I kind of brought to it. And I learned a lot. I was super young to be, 22, 23 years old,
Yeah.
starting out in a top 60 market in television in the U.S. That was a lot. And I think I definitely wanted everything to happen quickly. And it didn't. So, as a young guy, you're definitely, you're like, wow, like, this is dragging on. I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
older. We had no idea how young we were, right? But that was my experience. Got to be a part of that Emmy Award, which was really cool. Long story about that. Christmas Eve, crazy story that we broke, and that newscast got newscast of the year in the Mid-Atlantic region. So
Yeah,
that's
I
kind of
know.
like the quick story about that Emmy. But worked with some very talented individuals there. I thought that was going to be what I did, and God had other plans. The Great Recession was a thing. Healthcare reform was a
Hmm.
great thing, but those things kind of combined, and it's like, well, you've been here 2.5 years working 30 some hours a week, and that's kind of where it ends. There was no full time
Yeah.
opportunity there, and so that was kind of the end of that. And people get laid off; it's part of the process. I still love journalism, as you mentioned. I've done some broadcast work in sports since then. Done some television work for college basketball games and the like. Done a lot of writing about sports, so still scratch that itch and put that degree to work. But like I said, God had other plans, and when I was kind of in limbo there. I was still coaching high school basketball, which I loved, had a lot of success doing it, coached some great young women who are now married with kids and all this crazy stuff. But, um, the opportunity came to go work in college basketball, and it was an unpaid opportunity, but I took it. And I just totally took that one. And I think that in life, you take those turns sometimes. I think that's a big life lesson that you got to be willing and able to do it. So was super fortunate to have the opportunity to go work somewhere for free, to just get it from the
Unpaid,
mud,
yeah.
right? Come up from the sticks and just do it, and had start having success in that early on. Work with great people again. So that was kind of the journey, the transition. Again, it wasn't a planned transition. It was just one of those things where, well, you're kind of at a crossroads and which way you're going to go with it. And that's the way that it went.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I think, every time I hear stories like that, I run parallel stories in my world and
I'm
stuff, and we
36.
could share so much. And like that struggle of like wanting it and getting it sometimes, it's like I'm so like that. I'm 38 years old, or I'm not how old are you now? 36. So we're like 2 years separate, but it's like you chase and chase and you grind and grind, and then there's times where it just doesn't work out the way you had it planned, and it's tough to make a pivot. But I think it's so crazy that like you took the opportunity when you said it was an opportunity and it was free, right? There's free opportunities that come up all the time when people aren't ready for it, right? If people were prepared, it would that opportunity, that free opportunity would lead into something greater and stuff. And that comes into preparation and stuff, especially like when you're playing basketball and coaching and teaching people is people want things to happen, but they don't see those opportunities come because they're not prepared for it. And I think you were really prepared for it because not in mind, I don't think like success is like you can't say what success is, it's just like a feeling, right? I think when you had the opportunity to come up for like basketball and that came, I'm sure there was a feeling inside you, this was the right feeling to move forward to it. And I know you coach at your college, and I was reading a little bit about it. It has something to do a little bit with like your spiritual and like purpose
Yeah,
and
it's a
meaning
small
as well
private
too,
Christian college
and kind of
run
like your
by the New Church
spiritual
of
side as
Jerusalem,
well too,
which
which
is
is
a
interesting. Which
denomination of
uh,
Christianity.
I
So,
know there's like
not the
is
first
is Bryn
faith-based school, as you
Athyn
said, I've worked
a
at. Most of
private
the
school?
schools
It's
I
a
have
small
worked at
school,
are
right? Is it a
faith-based,
private
not
school?
all of them. And I enjoy that atmosphere for sure, as a person of faith
Hmm.
myself.
Hmm. Yeah. You know what's interesting? I'm actually right now I'm being coached by Kingdom Coaching University. They coach faith-based coaches, and mostly Christianity or Christians, and talk a little bit about my faith or kind of like how I grew up and how I got to where I am now. I'm a philosopher, but because I resonate a lot with like everyone, Christianity, Hinduism, Pakistani, or like different types of religions and spiritual people as well too. So I grew up. I was actually in Falls Church, Virginia, there was a lot of Mormons there. So I went to a Mormon church. I went to some Christian church and learned a lot about it, about being a good person. I learned a lot about Jesus. And then as I got older, when I started getting a little bit more serious with my life, when I started giving up alcohol, I think that's kind of when I started making a little bit more of a connection, to my spiritual self. And it's different for everybody. It's Jesus, God, or like the universe. I say either one. It doesn't matter as long as you're connected to something that gives you some source of power. That like, hey, you're gonna get through these tough times. You're gonna figure it out. Because I'm in the same boat. I made a career shift. I made probably like 2 or 3 career shifts, but at each time that I've made the career shift, it just seems like there's more clarity, you know? So after college, I actually went to go visit our fraternity brother Dean in there in Los Angeles, and I was so inspired by that lifestyle about like personal development because he was a speaker, he was a writer, and he had a podcast and everything, and I was so sweated. And I brought that mindset back here onto the East Coast. But the thing is, like, I was working at a regular corporate job, working in luxury apartments, selling real estate, doing like hustles and stuff. But I always had that mindset that I knew I wanted to do something like this, like a personal development, lifestyle coach and everything. And each time I made a breakthrough, it just seems like there was more clarity and clarity and clarity as I continue to do what I do. And now we're here. I have this podcast, which is, a great platform to I like having people come with different perspective. And I'm sure that the faith has something to do with like some of the success that you guys seen. I'm not experienced in coaching women's basketball and everything. Can you talk about like what are some of the challenges in
Yeah, great
having the
question.
private school,
I think when you
having
first start
coaching
out,
women
like when
as
I
a
was
man,
20
like
years old and I
are there
went to
challenges in
Radford High
that?
School and said I
And
still
how
want to be
did you
around
transitions
basketball,
from
and they
some of the
said,
stuff
"Well,
that you learned
how
from
would you feel about
journalism
coaching our girls
to what you're
JV
doing
team and
today?
helping out with the varsity?" And I was like, "Girls, I never thought about it, but okay." I had a background in sports. I worked at the YMCA growing up, so talking about faith, obviously a strong faith-based organization that's grounded in principle and values that I align with. So love the YMCA. That was a big part of my life, a big part of my upbringing,
Yeah.
but I had a familiarity with it. So I took that opportunity while I was finishing up my undergrad. And you're very close in age at that point. I'm 20 years old, and some of these kids, if I had gone to that high school, I would have been a classmate of them, which was crazy to think about because they're 17, 18 years old. So uh, the first few years, I think people were like kind of worried about, okay, you're a young guy, and you have to answer that question a lot. And unfortunately, as you kind of progress, I think it doesn't really come up as much that you're a male and these are young women. I think you kind of, I don't say graduate, but you kind of stick around long enough and people know, okay, this is a person that's in it for the right reasons. Because parents have to trust you leading their young people. I think that's a big part of it.
Right.
Parents have to be able to look at you and say, this is an individual that I believe in. Young people have to look at you and say, this is somebody that I want to lead me. I don't
Yeah.
take that lightly or take that for granted. I think that's so important. And faith is a part of that. You talked about faith side of things. I think that growing up, being a member of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, growing up, going to vacation Bible school with my next door neighbors who were both Presbyterian ministers, like
Yeah.
those things instilled upon me. My mom side of the family went to one church. My parents split up when I was a kid. My stepdad, his side of the family went to another type of church. So I got to see so many walks of faith in Christianity. And that became a big part of me and who I was. My grandmother survived the Holocaust. She was not Jewish. So those are all kind of big things that kind of come into the faith side for me. And I think that faith is a big part of our lives. You touched on it yourself. I think who we are as people is shaped by our belief system. So believing in a higher power, whether it's God in the Christian faith, Jesus, or other Christian, other
Yeah.
faiths that aren't Christianity, Allah, et cetera, et cetera. So I loved world religion class in college. I probably did not learn as much as I would have loved to, but everybody's got their belief system and their faith, and it's important, and it should be important. It doesn't have to agree with yours or
Yeah.
mine, but that's what that person believes, and it should be respected, and it helps make them who they are. So I think working at a faith-based college where you can, we do Bible verse of the week with our team. our players pick that, a lot of weeks. We do pray before practice and before games. We have young people who have never prayed out loud before. They do believe in God. They do go to church, but praying in front of a group of people, even if it's people that are like your family, your teammates, they haven't done that. And then they get so confident, and you watch them grow in it as they can, like, everybody bow your heads and let's pray, and take the mic, take the floor. So I love using that as a teacher. I think that it's a big piece of it. Again, who you are and your personal development is your faith. So, and I think here we obviously are a Christian college, but we're very open. Like, we've had non-Christians on our team. We've had people who aren't religious on our team. And that's a cool side of it too. And I think that being around somebody that's different than you is super important. It helps you get a different perspective and appreciate where they're coming from. And I think sometimes maybe the world misses that a little bit these days.
Yeah. I like that, man. Thanks for sharing. I think what I really got from there is that it's all about like respect, you know? I think when the reason why I chose to go to VCU in Richmond was just because it was a very I knew it was going to be a very diverse experience. I grew up in a very diverse neighborhood in Falls Church, which had a lot of like Southeast Asians, Vietnamese, Cambodian, Laos. We had Pakistani, Indian. We had Hispanic folks. So there was a lot of different mix, and it was like a melting pot. And then when I decided I wanted to go to college, I did a lot of research. And VCU in Richmond was just kind of like that perfect distance to like grow because it was like an hour and a half away. And going to that school, it was actually very diverse as well too, because you had people from Northern Virginia, you had people from Virginia Beach, you had Richmond locals. Like, you were a Richmond local, correct? Yeah, and then you had people from like Virginia Beach or probably Roanoke or Charlottesville, right? So it was kind of like the center of Virginia, and I got so much in college of just being so open minded and like understanding of people and like their perspective, and I brought that out like into the world of like business and entrepreneurship and everything, and it just became who I am as just a very like I love like getting to know people. And really the podcast kind of just developed because these are like type of normal conversations that I have before I started like this remote coaching business. And I knew about podcasts just like you. Like, I love podcasting. That was kind of like the way I educated myself. After college, I read books. Before podcasting, I used to go to the library and get those like CDs and stuff. Back in the day. Now we got Audible and we got podcasting and stuff. So, but I guess it was just like this is like a natural progression into like my career. And I'm proud that I just created it, and I just did it, right? And it felt, like I said, it's like faith. It just feels so powerful and for me and compelling that like I have to do this, because I wake up, there's days that I like I'm beat up, like just as you, I'm working extremely intense. Like, people don't think like being an entrepreneur, a single dad, and like dealing with like mental health issues and building careers and stuff, there's a ton of stuff that's on your shoulders and stuff, and that stress could add up and stuff. But this has given me such a powerful like energy that, hey, I do want to share this message and just help each other, right? We're all human beings, no matter what religion, whatever faith that we have, right? We're all trying to be better people and also trying to help each other at the same time, no matter what our backgrounds are. But you've dealt with some hard stuff, and I wanted to kind of chat with you to talk about how you dealt with that, because death is sometimes we get a little dark and deep on the podcast and stuff, but you put it on here that you lost a friend or a teammate at the Virginia Tech shooting in 2007, and we all remember that. That was definitely in 2007 was when I graduated college. and I was still
Yeah.
around, and it was definitely scary. I remember that, just being so close, and I
Yeah,
had
a couple
friends
of crazy
from my high school
situations
go to Virginia
there
Tech,
for
and then you
an
also
18,
had
19-year-old
it
to
says
deal
here, you
with.
say here that one
Just
of your
thinking
fraternity
back on
brothers
that,
was
Mac
murdered at
Waltney
Radford.
was a graduate
That sounds,
assistant teacher
definitely like
at Virginia Tech, a
life
guy that
changing.
I grew up playing ball with and working out with at the Y. And uh, I think what losing him was heartbreaking for me. I was going to college out of Virginia, and I was a freshman, and to have that happen, I had broken my wrist that season. I was doing rehab in the athletic training room. I'll never forget, and just seeing that all develop on the TV, and you're like texting on the old phones that flipped up and had the keyboard. Um, you're texting all your people because all your friends are going there. Like you said, you're a Virginia guy, so Virginia Tech was one of those schools everybody went to. And you're hoping that you hear back, and you're hoping that people are okay. And the cell service was a wreck out there, so you're not hearing back, and you're just like, wow. And then to find out somebody that you had just seen at Christmas was gone,
Hmm.
uh, just traumatic. One of the saddest drives I think I've ever had in my life was driving back to Virginia for those services. It was really, really tough. But I think what that taught me is you never know how much somebody means to you until they're gone. I didn't know how much I looked up to Mac Waltney until that happened. And then I didn't have him to see at the YMCA that summer when I was doing my off-season workouts. That was really, really
Yeah.
challenging. That was part of the reason why I transferred back into state to Radford, just to be closer to my friends and family, not to be so far away. And that was a hard decision, but it really kind of brought me back. It brought me to Radford. From there, you know, playing careers going didn't end the way you wanted to.
Mm.
Like you mentioned, a couple of my closest friends growing up, guys I played ball with and stuff in high school, were a part of Delta Chi and Radford, and they were like, "Well, what are you doing to fill your time now that you're not playing basketball here?" And I was like, I'm coaching and just focused on my academics, and they were like, "Well, you should join." And they kind of were recruiting me, and they were on me about it, and I was like, "I just don't see it, don't see it." Alex Mazanak, who's my big brother, was the recruitment chair, and he was on me. And I remember I told him no. And then the night before everything got started, I texted him. I said, "Look,
Yeah.
I'll do it." And it was a leap of faith, and I totally took him up on it. And I'm so glad that I did, because I wouldn't be here right now. I probably wouldn't be where I'm at professionally right now, just as a coach, if things had worked out differently. I think my life is definitely a case of everything happens for a reason. If my playing career had continued and whatever, I might have never coached. I might have never ended up in television. Like, who knows what would have happened? So
Yeah.
everything kind of sequentially happens, and I'm blessed for that. Some of my closest friends in the world who are family of mine are our fraternity brothers. So I appreciate that. I've never taken that lightly. And that's because of the losses I felt along the way. Then fast forward to my second year at Radford, my third year at college. I was finishing up my degree. I finished in 3 years, and we did have a fraternity brother, Bobby Thomason, who tragically was killed, and that was a really tough situation for me. Something I'm not shy about. I've talked about it over the years. To be with somebody when they're killed is a traumatic experience for a young person. Um, it makes you value the people around you so much, because you never know what could happen 30 seconds from now. And that was a whole crazy situation when we lost Bobby. I was like the only person his parents would let spend time with him in the hospital. The school was like, don't go to class, like take as
Yeah.
much time as you need type of stuff. You never think you're going to be a week later carrying somebody's casket down the aisle. You never think that's going to be you. You never think that's going to happen. And there you are. And Bobby was a veteran. Bobby was life of the party. A lot of people at Radford loved Bobby. And we had a candlelight vigil for him on campus. At the time, it was like the biggest candlelight vigil Radford had ever had. And I remember all of that stuff. It's like it happened yesterday. I remember what we were wearing, where we were, all of that stuff just
Yeah.
was fresh. So again, I think it taught me to value people, to value brotherhood, to value the people that make the place. Like I said, people make the place, and because you never know when any of our time is going to be.
Yeah.
So that was a rough few years, but it taught me a lot, and I try really, really hard to live for those people that aren't here anymore. I think that's a big part of it, to challenge yourself
Yeah.
because you are here and you're here for a purpose, and that ties back into your faith. If you believe, like me, that God put you here for a reason and that you're meant to be where you are doing what you're doing. So I think that
Yeah.
all ties back together. Miss both of those guys tremendously. Pray about them every single night. And it definitely has shaped who I am as a person and as a leader and as a coach. So you take that and you move forward with it.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys for watching the Flow In, Flow Out podcast. So I want to take a moment and take a break from the show and thank you for being a part of our community. So I'm the head coach at Peak Performance Academy, and I want to talk about how you guys could support the channel and how we could support you as well too. So if you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe and share it with your thoughts. Leave a review with some feedback and let us know what you enjoy about the show. Your review helps the algorithm and gets our message out to more people. So here's how we could support you guys in your personal growth. So we have a coaching community called Peak Performance Academy, where I'm the head coach. We offer live coaching calls and lifestyle packages as well too. So if you need additional support in these areas of your life, please book a discovery call with us. We look forward to hearing from you and look forward to working with you. And also, if you are a fan of the Flow In, Flow Out podcast and you resonate with the message, and if you have an inspiring story to share, anything that you want to get out there that's going to help elevate the collective vibrations, we welcome you. Just let me know, send me an email, send me a comment, and then we'll get you scheduled on to the show. So we look forward to having you, and we love and appreciate all the support that have you been giving to our the Flow In, Flow Out podcast and the Peak Performance Academy community. Thanks for sharing, man. That kind of stuff. Talk about like losses, especially like good friends. I haven't lost anybody close, like friend, like pass away. But I've had some losses, and you sharing that, kind of brought me back to about like how you talk about like value and people around you. I think that's a real message right there. And as much as like we could, have all these differences and stuff, people when you lose them, you just realize like you should have spent more time with them, you should have had more conversations with them, and then you kind of live your life in a way where it's a little bit more meaningful and impactful and purposeful. I think that's kind of like what I got from you, is that like, sharing those message of losing two best friends, right? That's impactful, and it's very traumatic as well too, like having those memories and having to go through those. I appreciate you sharing, and it seems like you brought a lot of strength, or got a lot of strength and resilience and just spiritual power from that. And um, there's something that like I want to share too with our audience members. I never actually shared the beginning of like how I got recruited to the fraternity. And during my time in college, my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer, and she actually passed away right before I graduated. I did talk about it a little bit earlier in one of the podcasts, but uh I think like we have to, like, it's a real talk about like death and people like dying and stuff. Like, I talk about it because it happens, right? I'm a life coach, and you deal with people that deal with death, and you deal with depression and some dark stuff. But I think the message is to that we have gone through it, and how can we get stronger from it. It seems like you've done it. And from when I joined VCU, I would like you shared your kind of like whole experience when you started. It was just kind of like I started meeting some friends and started connecting with some people that just resonated on like the same level, right? That like were positive, that wanted to do good and like help each other. And that's how I got connected with some of the fraternity brothers. I saw that I looked up to them. They were leaders in the college. They were excelling at school. They had all the pretty girlfriends, and that was just like, I think, this is it, right? And I really like, I thought Delta Chi was the only fraternity on campus at a point. And I didn't rush any other fraternity, and I just said, all right, let's do it. And all my friends back in college were like, you joined a fraternity? I was like, yeah, I joined a fraternity. And it wasn't like I wanted to go to VC to join a fraternity. It just worked so well with the people that I was in school with, and how it enhanced my life or my college experience. I think without like Delta Chi, and I know fraternity brothers and like religion and Christianity and stuff gets bad rap. That's where it's like, let's have these real conversations, right? Right. I think part of media is just having like real conversations, talking about this kind of stuff. Like, people give fraternity brothers or fraternities bad rap, religion bad rap and stuff, but at the end of the day, we're like people, and we're all trying to improve each other, right? There might be bad people in some, like, and yes, I went to the fraternity, and sure, in religion there's some people that just make you sick. I've heard it, and the fraternity as well too, like Delta Chi, there was some great brothers, and there was some brothers that did nothing, that just try to bring the level of quality down. I don't know, but there's the leaders. I think being a leader in a community is so important, and having these tough conversations and learning how to build resiliency through it is important. So as I rushed through the fraternity and did everything, my sophomore year, as a freshman, both my brothers came to my dorm. They were like, "Hey, I just want to check out your school and stuff." I didn't know what it was. They were like, "All right, okay, come." So they came to visit me, and that's when they broke the news that my mom had terminal lung cancer. And I was like, freshman year, and I was like, I didn't know how to deal with it. Actually, I didn't. It was one of those times where like I was so young. I was like, I'm about to lose my mom. You're gonna lose your mom that you grew up with, right? And then I didn't break the news to anybody. I just told one of my friends that the my mom had lung cancer. But at the time, our community at VCU was so close knit. I think Facebook was invented almost at the same time, but everybody came together at that time to like support me. It was unreal, like, because when you were in college, and then you had Facebook that kind of like helped to build this community, and everybody knew that my mom was sick, and they would ask me questions. They would ask me how I'm doing and everything, and actually it was very supportive. Fraternity brothers, sorority sisters. uh, well, fortunately, she passed away about a year before I graduated, which, unfortunately, it's sad. But what I do, and I try to continue to do, is just to be a good, kind person, like how my mom was. My mom was a very kind person, like very kind. Like, everybody never said anything bad about her or anything. She's just a kind, caring person, like cared genuinely about people and stuff. So I kind of carry that legacy with her as I interact with people. And when I interact with people, I just try not to be as judgmental. I think growing up as like personal development and stuff, we become very like, our religion's the best, what our god, or is the best. Like, if you're not doing this, you're bad. If you're not reading books, if you're not meditating, if you're not praying and stuff, you're bad and stuff. But it's like, I think everybody is at their own pace, and I think sharing messages of like how having some kind of faith or something that's going to get you through it is more powerful than that. I think that's what we're trying, like, trying to break that mold with the podcast and stuff. But feel free to share some of your insights on that.
Yeah, you can't
But
get
I think what we
through
share is
anything
very
like
powerful,
on your own,
because that
right? You have to have
is as
the
we get
support
older, it's gonna
system. You have to
happen.
be
But
strong in
as
your
long as we
faith and in
prepare
your,
for it and kind of
in who you are as a
learn how to
person,
deal
but
with
also
it
you
and
gotta have
talk
people
about it and
around you to
stuff,
help
we
you
can support each other.
through it. And I definitely had that support through those situations, and that was important
Yeah.
to have, because stuff happens in life. We talk about it with our players. Adversity is a part of the process. If you think that there's not going to be adversity, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. There's going to be adversity, and it comes in all sorts of forms. It gives you perspective. The harder the mountain you climb, the next mountain doesn't look so hard sometimes, as opposed to if you've never climbed a mountain, it looks like a formidable obstacle. So I think that it definitely is perspective, but you can't go through things alone. And knowing Delta Chi the way that we know it, I'm not surprised you had a strong support system, just like I did. Not just from the brothers, but the brotherhood
Yeah.
certainly helps. And you touched on it. Like, I think finding something to be a part of, whether it's a fraternity or a club or a team, a family, outside of your own family, that's so valuable for young people. And I think for people, even older people, you go to retirement homes, and, I've volunteered at some over the years through basketball, and people become a community. They might not have known each other before, but at that chapter of their life, those are their people. That's their family. Those are the people that they spend time with that make them happy. And that's important. And again, like you said, being able to understand those people and their perspectives
Yeah.
and where they're coming from is a part of that community.
Yeah. And you know what I like is, within a community, and I want to talk about this community, there's a thing about like community where you're so heavily involved in the community, you lose yourself as a person. And like for you, like you're a basketball player, or like you kind of like stuck to kind of like what you felt was the right thing, right? In the community, you could get caught up in like groupthink and everything, but being an individual in that process of like, hey, I still have to do my own thing and struggle through my own thing and become my own person and develop my own stuff, my own thing. And that's kind of like, for me, is like when I was in a fraternity, we had a great fraternity. We had a big presence on campus, and also I used that presence where like I was able to interact and with other fraternities. But there were some challenges when I started doing that. They were like, "Why are you sitting with the other fraternity?" I thoroughly enjoyed hanging out with the Indian fraternity, Sigma Beta Rho, and they were like, "What are you guys doing?" I was like, "No, this is. I don't care like if I'm in a fraternity. I'm still representing our fraternity, but I'm also still a person and they're a person as well too. Even if they're in a fraternity, of course we have different." Organizations within those things, but still like there were people that I resonated with and liked in other fraternities, and those are some of the challenges I think I saw when I was in college. But I really tried to like, even being a leader and showing that it's okay to help other communities as well too, and still be supportive of your own community, because in support of other communities, they'll in return always support you back and stuff. I think like that's kind of like my Eastern background of like always giving more, being of service. I think that's what I did a lot as a fraternity brother, because then I think that's why I got so much back from the fraternities, because I gave so much. I gave a lot. Um at the end of my fourth year, I never became the president of the fraternity or vice president. I just became a good brother, and I did a lot of work, and I got voted brother of the year. And they say either the president or the vice president usually gets this award, and I got awarded my senior year. I have the award packed in there. And I look back, I was like, I guess I did some work here, uh, but I was proud of that work. And not everybody sees it and stuff, but I think that leadership, that the ability to be like, there's some shit stuff that I don't like about the fraternity, but I'm gonna do my best to change it. I think that's what real leadership is. And I think that's something that's very powerful, talking about leadership, having faith, and having people follow you or trusting you to follow you. I think what you said there is about trust. We're following, like, your parents have to trust you as the head coach. Even for me at Peak Performance Academy, I'm coaching people to be better in personal and professionalize and stuff. They have to believe in you and respect for you, and like that leadership is there. And I developed that
Yeah, I mean,
in
I
college because
think
I had so much people
coaches are
supporting me.
educators. I've always
And
said
terrible,
that.
like
I
I was a
think
terrible public
what we
speaker, so I
do
kind of
is
just developed it
just as
over and over
important
and stuff.
as what a
But yeah,
professor
let's
does
talk
in a
about some
classroom.
leadership.
Our
I think
classroom just
that's
looks different,
very important.
and we're not necessarily teaching out of books. So I think that this is a big part of a college experience. I always talk about that. I think who we were as athletes or, as fraternity brothers, like you said, it shapes you. Um, the way that we can cross the boundaries and lines, right, of life and say, these people aren't exactly like me, and I'm totally cool with that because I came up in that environment. So I think that's a part of leadership as well. Like you said, you used to hang out with other fraternities. So did I. I live with guys in other fraternities, and they're still close friends of mine now. So that's just to be able to like say, this is my group, but it's okay to go to that group. It's okay to have people in that group and to bring them to my group or from my group to say, well, what about that group? And I'm like, well, yeah, I know that group. So I think that's a big, cool thing. I don't know if I'd have been this successful living different places in the country and stuff if I didn't have that mindset of it's okay to try something new. It's okay to shake a new hand. So I love that. It definitely factors into my leadership style, which is that everybody's important, everybody's welcome. There's no one right way necessary to do everything. There's no like perfect solution to do everything. I'm not always right, So those things all kind of come into play, and it just shows the life lessons that, again, being an athlete, being a fraternity brother, sorority sister, those things can teach you, and they're things that aren't taught in the classroom. So I always tie that back together to the learning you do outside of the classroom, and to look at myself as a leader and as an educator too. Because I think basketball is a great teacher. I know I wouldn't be the person I am without the game of basketball, and I owe a lot to that. Just like, neither of us would be the people that we are if we weren't in Delta Chi. So that perspective, you don't realize it at the time, but you look back and say, wow, if I hadn't done that, would I be here? And that's a big part of it.
Yeah. 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 And that's really like being at peace with stuff. Is like I was having a lot of issues with like um I always embraced change, but I think when I went through, because I was married and had a divorce, and that was kind of like where the big turning point in my life, and that's where I am now, was because I felt I was holding on to something that I should have just let go. And when I let go of it, a lot of the emotional pain kind of just disappeared because I just accepted that this is what was meant to happen, right? So now I'm here chasing my dreams of being a podcaster and in the personal development and in the remote coaching business. But I created it, right? I didn't sit back, even going through hard stuff, like when you see where you're at now, you're a leader, right? Right? Leaders do go through tough stuff, and leaders can teach. And like you said, man, I love that you said that we're educators in the same way, but we just might be in a different atmosphere, right? You're on the courts, I'm in the gym, I'm in the virtual remote coaching. We're still educating, we're still coaching people and still trying to develop people as well too. I think that's uh powerful thing as we get older and start to find some more purpose in our own life, is to contribute back to other people. I feel like I've lived, this is the right time for me to make this jump into this life coaching and doing personal development, because I can tell you, I've gone through all the life experiences that everyone has experienced, and sharing this message, I think, is very powerful. Leadership is it's a powerful thing, and what I typically like to do near the end of our show, it's about is to ask you, what you see yourself happening in the future. Kind of just, when I coach people, I always talk about the future. What's going to happen with Travis Ponton and your basketball career, coaching career, and how you see it. Because visualizing and thinking about it and just putting it out there in the air, whether it be the podcast or on your social media, because I'm big on that. I always tell people like put it out there. It doesn't matter if you don't achieve it. And to be honest, most of the time when you put it out there, you will achieve it. You just don't know when you're gonna achieve it. That's the like truth. Like for me, it's like that's how like faith works. Is you're if you believe in it, it will eventually happen, but you don't know exactly when it will happen. So I would love to share or love to have you share kind of like and put the stuff out there and what you want to see in yourself and when you see in
Yeah,
your
great question.
athletic careers or
I
professional careers or
challenge
your personal
myself to be
careers
better in this. I
and
don't
how
look
you want to see
far
the
enough
world
down the road
change. You know,
sometimes.
I think
I
we
am
start
really
off
bad at
changing the
thinking
world
like the
by
future.
just sharing what how
I
we
get
want to
so
change,
caught
you
up
know?
in what I gotta do today, being where my feet are. That's a dichotomy, right? Like you want to focus on being where your feet are and put all your time, energy, commitment into that, and that's so important, especially in this world of college athletics. That you don't think about, okay, where you want to be 5-10 years from now. It doesn't even cross your mind because you're just focused on what you got to do today and what you got to get better at today. So I've got to challenge myself, and constantly I'm doing so.
And it's not I don't like for me. It's not like a job interview. You know, at the old school job interview, they'd be like, "Hey, how do you see yourself in like 5 years or stuff?" It's not like 5 years. It's like how do you, as a person, want to show up? Like you're improving. Is there like relationships? Is
Mhm.
there careers? Is there like aspiration that you want to like excel in? It's like, and you said it's a dichotomy. Like a dichotomy is like yes, you still have to think in future terms, but also live in the present, right? Because here we're sharing this time together and stuff, right? We're getting the best out of it as much as possible and stuff, but also thinking like, hey, what can we do with like this podcast? What can we do with our platform? What can we do with like your you know, your
Yeah,
platform as well too? And like it sounds like you really brought like women's basketball to the forefront and like putting it out there, you know. Is there anything that like you think, you know, just ideas? I think that's what I think there's like ideas like for me in the personal development, ideas are like gold, like ideas and creative talk, because
yeah. I think
that's the
thinking back
spark of the
to my
inspiration, you know. It's
childhood,
just
growing
like
up in a single parent
okay, it
household,
might just be a
um,
start now, maybe it
you
might be
don't
something
know.
that
Like when
grows
I
into
go run a
something
camp,
bigger, you
I
know.
go
That's what I
run
always try to
camps all
teach
over the
people as a
country. I love
philosopher
it.
is
It's something I'm
seed.
passionate about. It helps grow, hopefully, the game of women's basketball to work with young players. But you don't know what all of those kids, what their backgrounds are and where they're coming from. But how many of those kids maybe don't have two parents? They came from a similar place that I came from. Um, I remember the people that helped me fall in love with basketball. I played other sports and I guess excelled, at a certain level, but basketball was my thing. I knew that probably 14, 13 years old that was going to be my thing. And it wasn't because I had some parents that were like basketball, basketball, basketball. No, it was because of the people around me, the people I heard speak, the people I saw at camps. That inspired me to like, this is going to be my thing. And I hope that I can be that person for others. That's a big part of it. And when I go speak at a camp or work a camp, I talk about that. I hope that sharing basketball with these young people empowers them and makes them say, wow, yeah, I do want to do that, but I also know the work I have to put in to get there. That's something I really hope that I can contribute. Basketball has been beyond great to me. I would not be sitting here right now. So I hope I can be that person for somebody else. And the relationships and people I've connected with in my 15 years in women's basketball has been special. So I hope that when I travel around and run camps and work with young players, like it helps them feel that way too. Like I remembered when he said this and it resonated with me, and I'll never forget it. Because I can flip back to when I was 12, 11 years old at a camp and hearing certain people speak and say certain things, and why that stuck with me to the point now where I can't imagine my life without basketball. Probably don't play as much as I used to. I still try to get on the court when I can. When I was, 15 years ago, I was on the court every single day. If it was snowing outside, I was that 16-year-old up in my parents', garage,
Yeah.
working on my ball handling. That was me. That's the way I love the game. That was my relationship with the game. So I hope I can be that person for somebody else. I hope that our players continue to know that I'm somebody they can rely on beyond what they do on the basketball court. somebody that's going to be an open book, that cares about them, that loves them, that gives them their best every single day, even if it's not your best day. So those are things I hope I can bring to the table. And then personally, I have not coached an NCAA tournament yet. I've been to the Sweet 16 of an NIT tournament. NAIA national tournament. I've been in the NIT tournament. I have not coached an NCAA tournament yet. That's something that's something that's eluded me. So I think
There
when
you
you
go.
do this, you do this for a lot of different reasons. Obviously, to grow people, to contribute to the lives of young people. But I think you also do
There you
this to be
go.
successful
That's
and be
the seed. That's
successful at
the
the
seed
highest
right
level.
there.
That's
That's the
something that
seed right
drives you every
there.
single day, because you can just come in and phone it in. I think that people, can just come in and get by with the minimum. That's just not who I am. I'm not a minimalist. I see the championship, and that's where I want to be every single year. That's where I want our kids to be every single year. So being a part of championship organizations is special. It changes you. It changes the people around you. So that's something that's eluded me to this point in my career. And one day I hope I can coach an NCAA tournament. One day I hope I can coach in a Final Four. And if you kind of strive for that, you're always going to put your best foot forward. You're always going to have a growth mindset, and you're always going to have that out in front of you. I can't imagine, like, you think about a Gino Auriemma or what Don Staley's doing right now, just succeeding year and year and year, and how they do that. That fascinates me. What does it take for them to get there? So that feeling, I've cut down the nets as a high school coach and as a college assistant. That's really, really rare. And to be able to do that consecutive seasons is just crazy. So you chase that level of success. There's an allure, there's an aura to it. So you chase that feeling is there, and you want to get there. So those are things that I think hopefully are in front. But enjoying the process, being where your feet are every day, and doing the things it takes to get there, practicing what you preach in that regard is important as well.
Yeah. I love it. Thanks for sharing. Can I ask you something? Can I coach you a little bit? Because what you said was very powerful, right? You're putting it out there in the air about kind of stretching yourself, seeking other and just challenging yourself to get to the NCAA championship. And as a performance coach or somebody that studies a lot like psychology and NLP, the language, like I think the people that are very successful, they truly believe it. And when you say I hope, instead of like we will be champions, right? It's a different message. I think when you kind of kind of flip that switch where like, because that's kind of where I was like, man, I hope I'll start this company, I hope I'll do this and stuff, or but like it would be I hope, and then it'll be I will, and then it turned into I am successful, right? I think there's a powerful feeling of like we are successful, we are champion worthy, we are going to dominate this team, or we're gonna score this, we're gonna be this, right? We are. It's a more, for me, it was a more powerful feeling. And just be like, I hope I get the girl, I hope I get this job, I hope I get this. But then it's like I will get this, and then it's like I am. That becomes you. You are that aura that you talked about. Like there's this aura of like that you created, this feeling of like we are going to win and we're bringing it here in the presence. That's why I talk about like you talk a little bit about the future, right? About what you could envision and feel like. I think there's something very powerful that I think some people might not be into that type of visualization and everything, but I'm sure there's something to it. What I want to ask you before we head out, because I think this is very interesting, since you're a coach and you're in basketball, some of your
1,000%.
favorite.
I am
Do you study other
a
coaches
big, I want to say
outside of just
addicted
like
to it, but I'm a
collegiate?
big
Do you study
advocate for press conferences.
um
I love
like Phil
watching
Jackson
coaches talk
or
about games before the
any
game, after the
basketball
game.
coaches or anything?
I love listening to coaches speak in the locker room. Brenda Fries at University of Maryland, obviously a hugely successful coach, has won a national championship. They have a show called Under the Shell, and they record her in the locker room talking to her team. And I have been a fan of that show since I started coaching, because she's phenomenal the way she talks to her team. I love watching other coaches coach. I love watching other coaches run practice. So I think studying other coaches is huge. It's a big part of your growth. Not just basketball coaches. I
Yeah.
like listening to football, NFL post game, conferences. Not just with the coaches, with the players.
Yeah.
How do coaches talk about wins and losses in their teams and developing their teams? I try to go to practices of other schools, whether it's a high school or professional practice. Anything I can get into. I'd love to go watch like a MLB team on a game day before and after the game. I'd love to just study that. I'm absolutely like hooked on seeing those interactions and how people do things. Because like I said earlier, I'm not perfect. I don't have all the answers. So that fascinates me. It's something I've always been hooked on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how you get better. You watch other good coach, like I watch good coaches all the time. Like Tony Robbins is the best life coach out there. Um One basketball coach that I really love that I read a book. Phil Jackson, you know who Phil Jackson is, right? He uh Jordan and Kobe, he coached both of them. But I think he has like 3 or 4 books, but I read one and I understood like his coaching philosophy. It relates because he's very zen at sometimes, and then he's also very intense at sometimes as well too. So it's like kind of similar in where like you have to understand like who you're, what situation you're in, especially when it comes to like coaching, when to put enough pressure, when enough, or when to ease off, and kind of rest or kind of assess things, because the coaching world, it's always developing, right? We're developing each other, we're developing players and stuff, and there's no black and white answers. I think to me, as I got older and stuff, my coaching philosophy has changed. It's changed a lot in a way where like it's more about the people that I'm coaching and what they want, right? And helping them discover what their future is, what their plans are, and what they're developing, and help with their mindset and their insight as well too. So there's a lot of like the other stuff that I coach on is a lot of like psychology and then learning how to manage your nervous systems and everything, because basketball athletes and people that are performing, professionals that are putting them outside there, it's nerve wracking. It's nervousness. That's kind of like what holds people back and really excelling and really like being the best that they can. And there's I study a lot of flow. Like I'm a practitioner of flow. Basically, it's basically like you know what it is. It's basically being in the zone. Basically being in the zone. Like Michael Jordan, I'm sure Tim Grover and him were both doing like some meditations to get him into the zone and stuff. But there's some fun stuff out there that like I love reading and stuff and just connecting the dots, and we can nerd about it. And I think I saw you light up. I knew it when you lit up and you were talking about like other coaches and how you study them and like listening to press conference and stuff. I think that one thing, I think a lot of people outside like the personal development or just like people they're not heavily relied onto like mentors and the idea of absorbing it to be useful somewhere else. Sometimes I think we passively just watch things without actively watching it and studying it and stuff. And studying life, I think, is one of the most important things. Studying life and teaching life and stuff, it just brings a lot of fulfillment. But it was a pleasure to have you on the podcast, Travis. You've shared a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience and stuff. And I do want to wish you the best of luck. And the Flow In, Flow Out podcast and my community will support you if
Yeah,
you
hard
need
work
anything
forever
as
pays.
well too.
That's what I'll
Please,
leave everybody with. Like,
if there's
hard work
anything
forever
before I
pays.
head out, I'll
Invest
give you the
the
last
time,
opportunity to
invest the
share one
effort.
message
Go through the adversity.
before we
Don't
head
be
out, and
afraid of
then we'll
hard.
close
Don't
out the
be
show.
afraid of
Okay?
failure, because that old adage, there's no failures, only lessons. So hard work forever pays. I see it. I'm inspired by it when I see it in my peers, other coaches, people that overcome things. So keep your chin up, keep working hard, and good things will happen.
Fantastic, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. Keep inspiring, keep grinding. There really is no destination. I think it's just a journey. And thank you for being a part of the Flow In, Flow Out journey and the podcast. And all I can say is I'm signpost. So if you ever need me, look within yourself. That's my philosophical message for today. Look inside yourself and find yourself and really chase your passion. And the thing is, nobody's gonna chase your passion for you. Your dreams are yours. You know, God gave it to you. The universe gave it to you, and you're the one that has to put the, manifest it. You have to be the one that puts the idea, the creation, and put the work in every day. And basketball, and you can relate it because it's sports. It's repetition. The person that puts the most repetition as consistent as possible is gonna make it. It's gonna be successful, right? So that's the message that we're gonna end off with today. And thank you, sir. Thank you for your message. Do you need anything from me? Yes, I appreciate you too. Okay. All right, buddy. Thank you.